In this video, we are going to have a look at time series visualization in Python using the same data that I covered, that I used in the previous video on time series visualization in R. So I would kindly request you to go through the time series visualization in R first before we come to this video, because for this one, I'm going to skip certain of those things that I've already discussed in the first video and go directly into running the codes for to be able to draw the graphs. Okay, so to start with, of course, I'm assuming that you know how to open your Jupyter notebook and everything. So we'll start by importing the different packages that are of interest to us. Obviously, one of the main packages is pandas, and we say as pd import. Then we will import matplotlib. That would be the package that I'm going to use, and more precisely, the module pyplot, and we will call it as plt. A little bit what we have already been doing in other videos as well. So we'll execute that because this is part of the package import. These are the modules and the package that I'm going to use. For the PD, the pandas basically here it's because I'm going to use read.csv and read underscore csv, excuse me. And for the pyplot, it's mainly to do these different plots like dot plot, dot show, things like that. Okay. Now we are going to read our file first of all. So we are going to read our file df equal to pandas read underscore csv, and then we'll put the name of the file. The name of the file is cafeteria sales.csv. So we are going to put that here. There we go. And then we can just have a quick check df.head to see what are the different values, etc. that we have. So let's execute that for a moment and let's have a look. Here we go. That's the first 5 observations that you have in your data, and that's good. We move on. We're going to have a look at df.info, but bon, just to see what are the structures of the data. So you will see that these are object, and obviously we don't want them to be stored as object or as in our context they are text. Objects generally refer to text or things like that. Okay, no, we might want to change that. Generally, I mean, it is referred to as text here, but we have to change that. It is not supposed to be object, and we have to convert that to properly make it become date. So we move here and then we say df. You see the way of working here is a little bit different from so we are going to say we are going to change the date, the current date, and we are going to convert that date. We are going to not to change the current date. We are going to change the current date text, and we're going to create a new column called date, and that's what I'm going to do. And this is equal to pd dot. What is the function that I'm going to use? It's to date time. We use a function to date time, and then we are using this date. We want to convert to date time df, and then we come here, excuse me, we come here and we put date text, and then we state the format, and the format is as we already been explaining in the first video in R. There's nothing different about that, so I'm not going to discuss it further. I'm just going to move on. I repeat, if you did not go through the first video, I would kindly request you to go through the first video to understand better what I'm referring to as these formats here. Okay, so then we will also have a look at the dates. So let me just um, look at the difference between date and date text. Okay, when you're converting to date and you're converting to date text, normally you will see that there will be a how do we say, the way that it is presented will be not like as it is here slash 01, etc. Just to show you, I'm going to do that. So we will say df, and we'll select two things from the data frame. First of all, we will select date text so that you can just see the difference. I mean, in terms of how it is. how you can observe it. And then the next one is to put date. Oh, sorry, date. Okay, so let's have a look. Here we go. You will see that this was date text, but now it is considered as date. And then if you want, we can also do str. Yes, not str. Sorry, excuse me. What am I talking about? We can do just like we did above, df.info, execute, and now you see that gives date time. So that's what we want. The next step, as you already know, is to sort these dates. Okay, so let me do home here, delete that, and I want to sort these dates. So I will say df equal to df dot sort underscore values, and then I want to sort obviously the date. Okay, we won't see much happening in that particular context because already in terms normally the data is already sorted out, but still it's a good practice to do that, sort values by date, just to ensure that there is no issues. So that's done. We move on. We are going to do the aggregate of our sales to daily total sales as we have been doing earlier. To do that, we are going to come here with say daily equal to, and then we will do the grouping. All right, so daily equal to, we are going to say df dot group by, similar to what we've done in group by. We are going to group by date, the date that I've converted, not the one date text, but date that I've converted. And then I don't want these indexes when I'm going to convert. I just want the values without the index. So what I will do when I'm saying df dot group by date as index, then what happen is that I will need to say group by what date the sales amount, and when I'm doing the aggregate I'm going to do the sum, and then I can just type daily dot head to see the first few values that have been converted to daily. Execute that, you will see that you have 1st January, 2nd January, etc. And we're doing the sum. All right. That's what we did in R. I repeat again, what I'm doing here is just a repetition of what I've already done in the first video. If you did not go through the first video, you might have trouble understanding what I'm doing here. Then my next step is to do the rolling mean, creating a rolling window of size 7 as we did earlier. So I'm going to create that rolling window of size 7, which is also our moving average if you want. And for that purpose, we are going to come here and then we'll say daily. And then I will create a new variable that will capture all these. Rolling mean underscore 7, just the way I wrote it in R, right? So that you can follow better what these two things. So daily, and then we are going to say, okay, the sales amount. And I will apply a function called rolling 7. We in our we used filter, you recall, but here we use rolling 7. And of course we do the mean because I can do the rolling 7 using something else rather than the mean. So because I'm interested in the average, that's why I'm doing this average. And then you can again check if you want the daily head just to see what you got. Of course, you assume that there are missing information at the beginning. Let's execute that, and you will see that there is missing information at the beginning. So maybe to better see more, let me put it as 10, execute it. You will see that there are quite a number of missing observations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the seventh goes on like that. So that is what we get for the average daily sales. Now we want to plot our diagram. Now to plot our diagram, we are going to say to create a new figure, plt dot figure, fixed size equal to 11.5. It's going to be a rectangular one. And then that is it's a width of 11 units by height of 5 units. Then what I'm going to do is to do the plt dot plot, and in plt dot plot I'm going to plot what? Our daily date. Okay, I'm going to plot that, by the way, so let me just keep that down there, and then plt dot plot. I will need that later on, so let me put this like this. So daily, and then we will say date. Plt plot daily date, and then we will say daily sales amount. So we are putting the X, you're putting the Y, and then you will say label equal to daily sales. That is the legend that you will have for this plot. Okay, and then we'll have the same thing, but now we are plotting here the daily rolling mean, and we will put as label equal to 7-day rolling mean. That's what we consider as moving average. You can execute that, and you will see that's what we get, similar to what we have in R. Of course, the default is blue here, but that's basically what we have. Okay, and then you can improve this obviously by changing these sticks, rotate them, for example. You can improve that by putting labels everywhere, and so on and so on. If you don't want that, you will do plot.show, things like this. Let's get into that. To improve that plot, we will say plt.title, and then we will put a name to that. Let's call it daily cafe sales. That's one of those things that I want. And then I will do plt dot x label. I want to add date as a label, x label, and then I will do plt dot y label, and then I will put sales amount as my vertical, and then I want to rotate these x-axis. So when I'm rotating this x-axis, I expect to get something that is slanted in 45-degree, because I'm going to do that. So let's do that. To do that, we use x sticks, and then we use rotation equal to 45. It all depends on what I want. If you want it 90-degree, you can do it 90-degree, but I'm doing it 45. And then it's important that I plot the legend, because right now we have two colors, but there is no legend described. So we will plot the legend by doing plt.legend. Of course, we could improve that, but I'll leave it as it is by default, what it gives me. Okay. And then I will type plt type underscore layout. What does this mean? This is adjusting the space automatically so that the labels and title fits well, okay, everywhere. That's the idea why I do that, so that the title and the label fits well in the diagram. And then if you want to display the graph, you will do plt.show. All right, plt.show. So we can execute all this. Let me just check where the error is. Yes. Let's execute that. Here we go. We get something like this. There we go. So you got a tight layout where everything is seen as we want. Now, if you want the graph to be instead of 11.5, you can change this kind of visual ratio. You can change it as you wish. So you will see that there are some missing values in the beginning. Same kind of thing that we have done. Now the next step is to do the same thing for daytime. Recall daytime. So what I will do is to copy this information here because most of it are the same. So let me copy that. There, I will just change a few things. Instead of date, I'm working with datetime now. And then datetime text, you would recall. The format's more or less the same, except that there is an additional thing that you will have to include here. It's the hours. I repeat, please verify the code in R first of all to be able to come and see what I'm doing. Otherwise, you won't understand anything of what I'm talking about here. You are required to go through the first video, please. Okay, and then here we are going to change that to daytime, and the rest stays the same as usual. We sort the data by daytime, and we can execute and have a look. Okay, so we can execute that. So that's done. If you want, you can do and check the head, but there is no need. Now we can go directly now and get the data, extract the data for, you would recall, February 15 February. So that's what I want to do now, is to get a copy of that data. So I will call it one day equal to df, and there I will say df select date text. Set date text. Okay, df date text, and date text should be equal to, then you state what date you are referring to. For example, you would recall earlier, let me just get back to this. Execute that. So you would recall earlier that date is written like that. So we are going to say if date text is equal to 15 February, that will be called one day. And then you can just check the one underscore day dot head. Okay, here we go. We get the one day dot head. We can do, if you want, 20, or you can go up to 40. You will see it will give you all for that particular date, right? Only for that particular date. So, but for that, one of the things that I want to do is to make a copy of it. Why I'm doing that? Just to ensure that whatever I'm going to do later will not mess up with the actual data that I have. So that's why I do a copy of that. And then what I need to do now is to create the new plot. We come here and then we say plt.figure again, just like, in fact, what we did above already. Just copy that. I will just copy everything here, just bring this down, and then we modify wherever I need to modify. Okay, here we go. Then we will do PLT, but we won't be working with daily, but rather one day. And then it's not date, but rather date time. Then again, we're not working with daily, but rather one day. That is this one. That's what we have been working with, this. Okay, because we're not taking the full data set, but we are talking about only the date that is referring to 15 February. And then rather than putting labels equal to daily sales, I will rather put marker equal to, and then I will do a small o there just to put a small circle. Now you can refer to different marker if you want. You can choose whatever you wish. And then this, there is no rolling mean. Whatever I'm doing here is very straightforward because I've already done it on in R, so that's why I'm going a bit fast here on 15 02 2024. And then we have X label date time, sales amount, rotation, the same thing. We don't need the legend because we have only one line here, and then we type layout, show, execute, and we'll see what it is. So sorry, there is a small problem here. Let me just check the issue where it is. Monday date time. Here we go. That's good. This is happening probably due to the sorting, which is supposed to be date time, not date. In sorting date sort values, we have worked with time. We need to sort by date time. So I'll execute that. I'll try to execute that and hopefully it works. Here we go. That was the main issue. I forgot to sort date. So when we are executing when we are plotting the lines, Python had the difficulty to understand where to connect each of these points. Okay, so that's the main issue that we had. So sales that was for the date time sales, and then you can create a seasonal check quickly. We are going to come here and we do df hour, and this is equal to df, and we are going to extract this hour from date time. All right, from date time, from df. We're going to extract this hour from date time, but to be able to extract this hour, we are going to use an accessor called dt. dt is basically when I say .dt in pandas, it's going to be an accessor that helps you to extract the date component when you're using the pandas package. So .dt.hour. So basically, if you have, for example, something like 0700, what it will extract is that it will give you 7, right? If you have 1430, it will give you 14. That's the kind of thing that is going to happen when you're using this uh, accessor here, dt. And then we do enter, and then we are going to say our pattern equal to, we open bracket, we close bracket, and in this our pattern we are going to say df dot group by in terms of hour as index equal to false. I'm not interested in the index, is equal to false, but I'm going to group by sales amount, but this grouping will be based on aggregate of mean sales amount, and then I will compute the mean from all these. So what this means is that for each hour that I have obtained here, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 24 hours. So each of these hours that I have obtained, I will obtain the mean of the sales amount, and I'm going to record that as hour underscore pattern, and then you can just type hour underscore pattern if you want, just to have a brief look of what we are getting. So that's for the seasonality check, obviously. Okay. Now, when this is done, our next step is to plot this average sales by hour. All right. To plot the average sales by hour. Just come down there. Here we go. So let's plot the figures first. Figure fig size equal to 11.5 or 9, whatever you want, 11.5, for example. If this is not appropriate, you can change it, and we are going to do plt dot plot, and then we are going to extract this information from our pattern, these two information, From our pattern, you are going to extract these two information, our pattern, and I will put a marker here as I did earlier, and the marker I'm going to include it as a small letter O. Okay, and we can do the same thing PLT. I'm not going to plot one by one. I'm just going to go directly to the final plot by putting the title and improving it already right from the start. You may wish to stop here and play and run it and execute it and then see the differences when I'm doing it, when I'm adding the different additional lines of codes. Okay, so plt.x label our plt.y label average sales amount. Then we do plt.tight layout, and then we do plt.show, and there we go. We execute that. We'll get the average sales by hour of day. All right, that's again the same interpretation. I'm not going to go through that again, but I think you should have understood by now what it is. So there we go. That's the code for Python. And I repeat, please refer to the previous video for more information related to what we have been doing here. Here, I'm just focusing on the coding, and that's all. Okay. Thank you for your attention.